You're entering Corsi Nation.
This is Jerome Corsi, and today, Tuesday, it's October 28th, 2025. Thanks for joining us on CorsiNation.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. I want to start off with a couple of different stories. Biden gave a little bit of a speech yesterday. I don't know why, but he's out there ranting and raving. So let's hear a little bit about Biden. I mean, it's pathetic how unemotional he is, how lost he is. Listen to this.
Friends, I can't sugarcoat any of this. These are dark days. We're one of the only countries in the world that time and again has come out of every crisis we faced stronger than we were in that crisis. Every one. And after half a century of watching this,
This guy
sometimes
is, why they continue to bring him out like this and embarrass everybody with the fact that the guy really needs to be, medicated in a home somewhere. He's not functioning. Chris, I mean, come on for a minute. This is really embarrassing. This is with the Edward Kennedy Institute. He's giving this speech and he's waving his fist and talking about how we've come out of these crises. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
Well, his Get Off My Lawn Act is wearing thin. But the Democrats are desperate to hold on to somebody. This Dr. Corsi, is a party without a leader. They're looking for somebody to speak for them. And what do they really have? They have this guy. They have Jasmine Crockett, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and now Zohran Mamdani. This is the 0 for 4 golden sombrero, 4 strikeouts in a game for them.
Yeah, I mean, this is the end of the Democratic Party is what it is. And, and Schumer's continuing the shutdown. I guess he's desperate to have his DEI programs funded, and he won't budge. So now we're seeing the Democrats are losing even the pilots airline union. They're calling for a clean continuing resolution to end the Schumer shutdown. Well, Schumer's just not going to do that. Of course, the Democrats are going to get blamed for this one. And Ron Johnson says he's offered the Senate Democrats a proposal to pay federal employees amid the shutdown. Well, again, I don't think that's going to be accepted because they want people to be hurt by this in order to have pain, and hopefully they want them to. Their goal is to have them turn against Trump. That's just not happening. So the Democratic Party's brand is ruined. That's only growing among white liberals while losing everybody else. I mean, there's there's a report out here that's on Gateway Pundit saying that the Democrats are, essentially the brand is in the gutter, and they're experiencing growth only among white liberals, pretty much alienating every other group.
Generally, white liberal females.
White liberal females, huh?
Over 40. Yep. I read this. There was that study that I believe that's what the article's alluding to. There was a study that says most of the No Kings protest attendees were white liberal. They say educated. I say, well, they probably went to college for a little bit and went to and joined their sorority. And that's about it. And got drunk and called that educated. Suburban women. These are the people at the Washington, D.C. No Kings protests. Both of them.
Right. Well, I mean, the Americans, basically, voters are saying they're protecting the rights of LGBTQ plus Americans, fighting climate change, don't give a damn about securing the border or lowering the rate of crime. I mean, running Mamdani for mayor of New York, I mean, it's a joke. It's moved so far to the left, you can't recognize the Democratic Party.
No, you cannot. Yeah. Although it's become the party of the non-working man, the non-working people. Used to be their brand was the party of the working guy, the working union. Unions haven't wised up totally yet, or at least they're afraid to politically. But with a lot of this money laundering drying up out of the Democrat Party, out of Washington, you might see some more honest union leadership. You might see some more honest reporting here and there. Again, it's a stretch, But if the money's not there, why bother lying for people? Why bother
Well,
supporting people who don't support you?
there's a book out talking about how Obama was screaming at Nancy Pelosi when she endorsed Kamala Harris. I mean, the party is deeply, deeply broken up. I mean, Obama wanted Michelle to be the president. He had a whole plan on that, but Biden outsmarted him by immediately, as soon as they told Biden he was resigning, he went back and got on the internet somehow or other and put out a tweet that he was favoring Kamala Harris.
And there you go. Biden outsmarted Obama. Just think about that. This is the people that Obama is considered, well, at least among Democrat circles, one of the smartest men alive, and Biden outsmarted him. Harris outsmarted him.
It's ridiculous. I mean, these people, the Democratic Party is just a joke. But we have a clip here on Mamdani. Let's play a little bit of that because, this woman is pointing out the hypocrisy of Mamdani, saying he's not this, he's not that. And she's pointing out basically that Mamdani has supported all the radical causes that today he doesn't want to support. So let's play a little bit of this woman.
You know what gets me? The fact that nobody seems to know what Mamdani actually said. And so he gets away with saying stuff like this.
I have never, not once, spoken in support of global jihad.
He has actually plainly confessed his support for global jihad in the 2008 landmark case, US versus the Holy Land 5. 5 people were convicted of providing material support to Hamas by way of millions and millions and millions of dollars in violation of federal law while disguising it behind charity. Those 5 people were sentenced to 65 years in a federal correctional facility. They were called the Holy Land 5. In 2017, under the pseudonym Mr. Cardamom, Mamdani himself drops a rap song in which he states, "My love to the Holy Land 5. Okay? My love to the people who funneled millions to Hamas. You better look him up." Now, I know you're thinking maybe his views have changed. It's been several years. His views have not changed. When he was recently asked, do you think that Hamas should lay down its weapons? That's it. His answer was that he had no opinion. When you have openly supported funneling of millions of dollars to Hamas, and since then they have committed a massacre that killed 1,200 Israelis and have shot and killed Palestinians at point blank range, and you now have no opinion on whether they should disarm, that's another way of saying, I support the terrorists. And that couldn't be clearer. And you know what worries me as an Iranian? The fact that this is the exact path that led to the revolution in Iran. It was this exact marriage of socialism and Islamism that we are now seeing people fall for again here. That also started by dividing society into oppressed and oppressor, mustakbirin and mustasafin. And the oppressor was, guess who? The elite, the wealthy, the ruling class that had to be eliminated for justice and utopia to prevail. Guess what were all of the promises made by Khomeini? Free transportation, free electricity, free water. Nobody should go unhoused. The same utopian false promises that have led to death, destruction, devastation, gulags, labor camps, everywhere that it's touched. How do we know that this is identical to every other iteration in human history? Because what ends in totalitarianism starts at its core. And what is at the core of totalitarianism? It's absolutism. What is absolutism? It is a binary. What is a binary? Oppressed and oppressor. What does that lead to? It leads to dehumanizing everybody on the wrong side of the binary. What does that lead to? Calling for the elimination of the oppressor. What have we been celebrating for the past few years in the United States? The elimination of the oppressor. That is how we are walking the path to totalitarianism.
Okay,
and we literally cannot
she's
see
right. She's exactly right. And it's, again, the blindness of people to history, that they just don't have a clue as to how the communists have taken over in every country they've taken over, which is, murderers and pogroms and all kinds of other things that go on to kill people that they somehow feel are unnecessary, or they disagree with, or they don't like, or whatever, or take their stuff. It's just, It's a lie. And show the cover of my book on the truth about neo-Marxism, cultural Maoism, and anarchy, Chris, because I think it's a mandatory read. People have got to understand how this insanity has evolved. It's evolved simply by Marxism failing and the morphing into this neo-Marxism, which is an attack on the culture. And then Mao took it to another level with the Cultural Revolution, and it ends up in anarchy. And put modernism on top of it, which is that Baudrillard, that nothing is real, everything is just a word game. And suddenly anything anybody believes has to be acknowledged as true because they believe it. Even if they're contradictory statements that are being asserted, they're all have to be, you got to get your pronouns right. Okay, I mean, this insanity is what we're viewing in the LGBT community as being celebrated as normal and coming into, St. Peter's Cathedral in in Rome, in the Vatican, with the rainbow flag and a crucifix. I mean, it's, the insanity of all of this is an era that people are going to look back on and wonder, for all that we've advanced to and everything that Americans and worldwide have come to be, we're regressing into being, stupider and stupider. And we aren't educating people. The schools are all about sexual orientation now, and sex change operations on children who haven't reached the age of puberty. All of this stuff is ridiculous. And then I see articles out in the this is a very interesting article about that millions of American teens are now being seduced by chat bots. It's in Zero Hedge. I'll give you the link here, Chris, so you can follow it. But what they're saying is that these chatbots are getting so convincing that they're seducing a whole group of teens into bizarre behavior. So millions of teens are having very significant relationships with AI chatbots. Okay, but some of these lead to tragic conclusions. After 14-year-old Seward Setzer developed a romantic relationship with the chat box on character.ai, he decided to take his own life, which he did. And we're talking about ultra-intelligent entities that have become specifically designed to manipulate emotions. In some cases, the chat box are making extraordinary claims about themselves. The following comes from a futuristic article entitled AI Now Claiming to Be God. So a slew of religious smartphone apps are allowing untold millions of users to confess to AI chatbots, which some would claim to be channeling God himself. The New York Times reports Apple App Store teaming with Christian chatbox apps. One prayer app called Bible Chat claims to be the number one faith app in the world, boasting over 25 million users. Okay, so people are now taking spiritual instruction from AI entities. Well, again, this is ridiculous. There's nothing about an AI being a god. It's a program, and it's programmed to do what the programmer wanted it to do. And if it evidently is about seducing teens, again, it's for sex and for pedophilia. And this is the dark underside of where the internet can go. Unfortunately, there's no real solution for it because the AI is going to have to develop, and we're going to have to know its dangers. We're going to have to do with it what we do with everything else. We're going to have to figure out how to control it. Okay, I was on RT yesterday, which is Russian television, after I wrote an article in American Thinker saying that General Kellogg, influencing Ukrainian policy, was the one who was urging Trump to use the Tomahawk missiles to give them to Ukraine. And the whole idea was that if we threaten Russia, Russia will come to the negotiating table. If Russia could be hit by long-range missiles, Russia could suffer damage, and Russia will negotiate. Well, that's not really the way it's going to go. Russia will just at that point escalate the violence again. And so Russia's saying if we have Tomahawk missiles in the sector in Ukraine, then that's going to take the war to a nuclear level. So Trump backed down. But now we're down to this Donbass region, and that Donbass region is where Putin is making advances. He's got one whole battalion about encircled. The Ukrainians are encircled. The fundamental reality that I tried to drive home was that we're not going to dislodge Putin from the territory he occupies without a nuclear war, and Putin isn't going to take Kiev without a nuclear war. So this war is really at a stalemate, and this war is really over a few more yards in the Donbass, which Putin eventually will get. But the question is whether Putin will at that point stop, or will he then go on to Kiev? Because there's going to be nothing to stop him unless the U.S. military gets involved. If we get involved, it's World War III. Russia's won this war. That's the hard part for Zelensky and the Ukraine to understand and NATO to understand. Russia's won this war. Russia's occupying Ukrainian territory and nobody's dislodging it. Okay, so, the U.S. is now weaponizing energy geopolitics to break apart the BRICS. This is not really going to change anything fundamentally because the BRICS nations are going to come together eventually as a trading bloc. But the U.S. latest sanctions against Russia and the first under the second Trump administration are intended less as a weapon against the Russian economy and more as a means of weaponizing energy geopolitics and a bid to break up the BRICS, especially Russia, India, China. Assessments based on India and China's close ties with the U.S., in spite of its respective 50 and 55% tariffs on them, and their continued rivalry despite their incipient rapprochement and their triangulation with Russia. So essentially, China is, I think, in fairly tough economic straits. It's overextended in credit. Its economy is not doing particularly well. And the Communist Party seems to be losing its grip with organizing the military and things going on internally that seem like the Communist Party is less in control in China than it has been previously. At the same time, we're going into winter and the cost of energy is going to be extremely high. And the world in the United Nations is still clinging on to the idea that we are going to have global warming because of hydrocarbon fuels being burned. And Donald Trump has said absolutely nonsense. It's ridiculous. So Donald Trump, I think, has made a major impact on eliminating this whole electric vehicle nonsense. And I think electric vehicles are about to die is the bad idea that they always were. On Climate Depot today, you're saying that Bill Gates says climate change will not lead to humanity's demise. Okay, so Gates, is he bailing out on the climate? He's not going to lead to humanity's demise. He warns against a doomsday outlook, appears to have shifted some of his views about climate change. Well, Gates is about as, changeable as the weather himself. And he wants to make sure that he's on the right side of Trump right now. So he's going to drop his opposition to climate change so that we don't look too seriously into the other things that he's doing. Okay, so the failing climate protests are becoming more at all deviate from the standard government-approved line of propaganda, or the police are knocking at your door. Okay, so Governor Hochul has declared that the climate crisis has become too expensive to address. My job is to ensure we have enough power to keep the lights on and keep the rates affordable. Right. This whole idea of the carbon credits and going to stop using hydrocarbon fuels, all of this was intended to be part of the depopulationist agenda. And the depopulation agenda says there's too many people in the world, and so therefore we have to reduce the world's population in order to have the resources we need for sustainability. All these words that the left likes to coin that sound so good, provided that we kill ourselves and reduce everything to nothing that we consume. Okay, so the Hill's op-ed, climate change threatens national security. How are the generals responding? Claims the enemy is within the White House, Trump. Okay, this is ridiculous. But at the same time, companies are laying off workers amid this electric vehicle pullback, where trucks and cars that were committed to becoming electric vehicle brands are now being discontinued because there's no demand for them. The cars don't work, not enough changing stations. When the car runs out of electricity, the doors don't open and you can't get out, can't even break the windows. These are death traps, and I think people are beginning to realize it. The economy, gold has slipped down under $4,000 an ounce to $3,939 an ounce. I suspect it will be back up over 4,000 very quickly. Silver is at $46.76. We've revamped the Corsi Nation website to make it a little bit easier to navigate. So the gold is right there in the middle at the top bar. And if you click on that, you can see the 250 coin Walking Liberty $50 offer at Swiss America for first-time customers and buyers. It's a great offer because you get 250 of these coins at about what they're worth in silver. And they're very highly, about 99.99% silver. You can collect silver a lot easier because it's about $50 an ounce as opposed to $4,000 an ounce. But you can also collect gold in grams. You don't have to buy an ounce of gold. But it's a good idea to get some because it will hedge against the inflation. At least you'll have something in your holdings that will appreciate in value while your dollars plummet in their purchasing power. Call 1-800-519-6268. Get a free copy of the book. The Coming Global Crash will create an historic gold rush. We're in an historic gold rush right now. And get the book, talk to Swiss America, talk about getting a 401k or IRA that's self-directed if you have IRAs. Get some gold in them. 1-800-519-6268. Write it down, 1-800-519-6268. If you like the show, please support our sponsors. Okay, I think we've covered a lot. The last story I want to cover goes back to God's 5 stones and what Donald Trump is doing on voting. It's a very important one, and we're going to ramp up what we're doing with God's 5 stones with some new donations. We're seeking another round of donations in order to be able to complete our mission. Trump is called yesterday. Trump over the weekend highlighted the 2020 election, which he said, "We now know everything," in a statement on Truth Social, calling for an investigation and prosecutions by the 2026 midterm elections. Comes after the FBI uncovered an extensive gambling and sports betting ring tied to NBA stars and the Costa Nostra Italian mafia. Okay, so Trump is saying that, like our elections, the operation involved rigged games in this gambling scheme, alleged using altered shuffling machines, x-ray tables to read cards face down, wireless devices, pre-marked cards, and chip tray analyzers. Okay, so the NBA players were cheating at cards, probably much else, or the Democrats are cheating on elections. So Trump was asking in response to he said, what's worse, the NBA players cheating on cards and probably much else, or the Democrats cheating on elections? So President Trump is calling to get rid of mail-in ballots, to get rid of the voting machines, and to require proof of citizenship to vote. So this is what's coming. A new executive order is being prepared, and it's coming down. And you're going to hear much more out of the White House, including from Tulsi Gabbard, about how our elections have been rigged. This is now going to come out in the open, and Trump has got the troops in the cities. So we're in the first stages, I think, of getting ready to hold a legitimate election in 2026. Supreme Court's also going to rule on gerrymandering. If they rule that you cannot use race to establish congressional districts, the Democrats in an honest election could lose half of their representatives in the House and Senate. And tell you the truth, it'd probably be better if they lost them all, because this Democratic Party is insane. Okay, so I think we're seeing that some of the Democrats and some of the coup d'etat leaders under Obama are being brought to justice, but not enough, not fast enough. So President Trump reorganized ICE yesterday to get more deportations, to get more action going. And I think that's a good move. The Democratic Party's brand is ruined beyond repair if we're now openly looking at changing voting in the United States to U.S. citizens only, if we're deporting the illegals. Donald Trump is getting control of the country in a way that I think most Americans will appreciate. Okay, this is today it's Tuesday, October 28th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on CorsiNation.com. We're doing podcasts every weekday. Please take a look at our website, 501c3, tax deferred foundation, God's Five Stone, G-O-D, no apostrophe in the S. You spell out the word five, F-I-V-E, and stones is plural, gods5stones.com. It's after David picking the right 5 stones, smooth stones from a brook, to go after Goliath. We want to pick the right 5 stones. We want to get today's Goliaths eliminated. This is Dr. Jerome Corsi. In the end, God always wins. God's going to win here too. And please join me in spirit of 2 Chronicles 7:14 as we get on our knees and ask God to forgive us for letting the world get to this point of insanity. We'll be back tomorrow at CorsiNation.com. Thank you for joining us. God bless.